we're in this market condition time right now where, someone's looking at the books and saying like, okay, we got to cut out, what can we cut out as an expense? Like this wouldn't be on the table if, it's like, well, we're engaging and nurturing our customers. We got to do that now more than ever. Like that has to stay. You've got to make sure you're positioned where you're strategic and doing something for their business that they don't see as just an expense. And that's like if you're providing a technology versus providing a solution or a service. So we really position this to be a solution or a service that would help grow their business, and allow them to inform and stay in touch and nurture and engage with their customers. So like if someone says, I'm going to get rid of this, like, so you don't think engagement with your customers is important?
Aloha, and welcome to another episode of the Groundswell Marketing Podcast, where I connect you to outstanding humans and sustainable ideas. I'm your host, Scott Martin, and today we have an incredible guest, Alec Stern. If you haven't heard that name, he's been around for over 25 years. He's one of the original founders of Constant Contact, which from startup, I think over 18 years, they did an IPO of over $1 billion, and he's known as a success expert for startups, and he's really shifted gears into mentorship, education, and support for startups. We go into a deep dive, a little bit of marketing, but really about marketing for startups. So if you're a startup, this is an episode for you. I think you're really going to enjoy Alec, and just with his years of experience, he's been a keynote speaker, well covered in so many different publications, and I just couldn't be happier to have him on the show. And without further ado, let's paddle in. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Scott.
Yeah, it was great. When I first met you, we were both on a panel for this entrepreneur.
Yeah, the Thriving Entrepreneur Playbook.
Right. And it was a virtual summit. So that was kind of fun to be part of. I think that's really one of the big crazes now, eh? People are really tapping these virtual summits.
Yeah, in fact, I have 7 today. Summits and podcast interviews. So everyone's tapping into them in a big way.
So it's surprising me that you're in massive demand, but 7 in one day. Are you kind of burned out?
No, it's really funny. Everyone sort of thinks that I'll just say the same thing 7 times in a row, and no 2 conversations and no 2 interviews are the same. It's a conversation, and we see before we started recording, we even said we'll see where it goes. Wherever it flows, we'll go. So that's the best part about it. I have a chance to talk about all kinds of different things, and in fact, I had a couple today that were totally unrelated to business and business success and startups and exits and this, that, and the other. It was about backstory and mindset and all kinds of things that didn't even get into the business side. So it's been really fun. That variety and the kind of wing it and see where we go approach is what I favor, to be honest, than something where it's like, tell us that your most popular talk. Can we hear it again?
Oh, geez. A little formulaic. So yeah, for me, it's like I feel like I want people to listen in and just 2 people having a conversation. And quite honestly, me asking you on the show is me scratching my own itch. I'm curious about you. I mean, when we were on that summit, you were just on point. You had some great comments for people. That was geared for, I think, starting entrepreneurs, I think would be the audience, would be fair to say.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of advice there that was really required for that. So I'd love to just give someone, and it doesn't have to be a long background. I mean, and I want to make sure anyone that hasn't heard of you has just a little bit of your history, and I've known of you forever. So for me, it's a real honor to have you on. The fact that you founded Constant Contact, I mean, you're sort of one of the key pivotal people to what was digital marketing and now is like considered traditional marketing, if you can believe it. I mean, I think email marketing, quite frankly, never went away, but I think it's going to make a huge comeback with all these platforms. But could you just give us a quick 1 minute, just give us a little background so we can kind of then jump into where you are today and what you're up to?
Yeah, so I started big company. First job was, large company, 1,000 salespeople. I was, in the field doing business development and some strategic selling. And someone many, many levels up was going to jump over to a startup that some other people in the company had been working on. And he said, hey, I'd love for you to come over with me. And I didn't right away, but 3 months maybe later, I decided to join, ended up being head of North American sales, business development, and marketing and so forth. And we went public. 5 years later, we went public. And I'm like, this piece of paper is worth what? So I was just didn't quite grasp it all at that time. But of course, I got the itch to say, how do I do this again? And so I've had 8 startups with now 5 exits so far, 2 IPOs, 3 acquisitions. Constant Contact is the most notable. There were 3 of us in an attic when we started, and we were on the East Coast, so we had an attic. If we were on the West Coast, we would have had a garage. And so we was original technical founder, a software architect, and me on the go-to-market, branding and marketing side of things. And we didn't have really much at the start. But what we wanted to do was to level the playing field for small businesses against their big competitors. Amazon and others had enterprise tools, they had resources, agencies, et cetera. And Main Street small businesses had nothing. SaaS didn't exist at the time. So we were one of the first 2 SaaS applications to come out. And of course, now that's, rented software and other products and services that are rented monthly is now something everyone's used to. You did state, email marketing is now traditional marketing. When we started, it really didn't exist, and it didn't exist for small business. And so we had to initially, when we started to do our own marketing, which was a few years later from the start, we had to do category awareness first and tell people about email marketing. It's not your inbox. It's not the tools you have in place. It's something bigger, better. And then after doing category awareness, when competitors started to show up, they got the ride along and benefit of that because we're educating people on a category that they were now competing against us in. And then we had to do brand awareness after that, so the marketing around our brand. So it was an interesting ride. So that's what I've done in the past. The company, it was an 18-year overnight success, as I like to say. Year 10, we went public, and year 18, we sold for $1.1 billion. That was about 3.5 years ago or so. And I've just got an innovation think tank, and we're spinning out new companies. We've got 3 now that we're working on, and part of a venture fund, G20 Ventures, limited partner. And we do tech investments here on the East Coast. And then I do half my time going around the world speaking and motivating startups and small businesses, and some coaching and mentoring.
That's an incredible background in history. And I actually started an email company as well, believe it or not. I wish I kind of stuck with it. It was called Method Mail. I still own the URL that we had. It was emailmarketing.org. But we came up, a couple times there was some bids, and we actually, Air Canada, I don't know if you recall, but I think you won that bid. We lost it. And that was way back in 2000 and, now I'm dating myself, 2003 or 4. Is that possible?
Yeah, it is. We started in 98, the end of 97, beginning in 1998. So we brought product to market a couple years in. And so, 2003 and 4, we would have had a product out, and we were 100% channels when we started and did a lot of partnerships. And so I'm not sure specifically which one you're referring to, but I spent a fair amount of time with some folks up in Canada, just, because I was just on a lot of the go-to-market stuff and channels, partnerships, et cetera.
So with all that history you've had with all these startups and exits, what's the pattern that you see is the biggest mistake that people marketing or the entrepreneurs working with a marketing team or so forth, or even the way that they're thinking about marketing? Is there a pattern that you see that's one of the biggest pitfalls?
That's such a great question. There's a lot of places I can go with an answer. The one that just comes to mind first is marketing in a vacuum. And so you get a lot of smart people in marketing. You might have some smart people in that are building the product. There's some were the target market before, and now they saw a need and decided to build something for the target market that they used to be part of. And things change so fast, and going out and getting aided and unaided feedback from your target market as early as possible and as often as possible seems to get left behind. And so sometimes we know better, and we're expert in it, so we're gonna create the messaging. And I'm just a real stickler for getting out and building the messaging, building the product and the features and everything really around what the customers are saying. You'd be responsible for creating the messaging and then living into delivering a product that's frictionless and what the customer wants. But I just feel sometimes we miss not really having that customer in the journey of from discovery on forward for what that messaging should be and what will resonate with them, and then getting really kind of particular and granular around down to the different avatars and, different verticals and sort of talking to someone like, oh, you work with other people like me.
Sometimes when people say that, well, they want to look for someone who understands my vertical, but can't that be sometimes an impediment? Like where you're relying too much on everyone else's practice instead of finding your own way, especially for a startup. Where do you think it should be? Like you have category understanding. Yeah.
So I think it's, when you first bring out a product, it's, you bring it out for the Uber category. So let's say small business. You might get more granular and say very small business. You might say with the sort of an emphasis on these 10 vertical markets. So you're going to start with bringing a product out that will satisfy anyone in the Uber, sort of target market. But then how can you, without changing a lot of things, is there some value add you can bring that ties it a little closer to them, or where they would be able to say, well, gee, you do work with people like me. So I'm not saying to deviate the product or the messaging greatly, but to just let them see that you have a handle on who they are, right? And and what their needs are. You've listened to them, and you're in fact providing some minor tweaks or additions to the offering. In the case of Constant Contact, for example, we had templates for all the generic things you needed. So if you're if you're a B2B, a B2C, or a nonprofit, the Uber categories, those three categories. But then when we got down to it, on B2C, we said, okay, well, what if we had templates that were pre-written for the 5 things that a nonprofit needs, the 5 things that a realtor needs, the 5 things that a restaurant might need, the templates that talk of, new menu items, or, just listed, just sold, featured home, B2B, a press release, or, alert or an update, right? So it was just kind of just creating templates, which was not really changing the product in any way, but just enhancing it for someone to say, wow, they work with other realtors. And it gives somebody, it hopefully shortens the cycle for them in terms of, adopting and using, right? So they'd say, oh, they have I just sold a home. Let me use the just sold template. So it's just minor things you can do in messaging or potentially in product to help the journey of someone in a vertical, for example.
You gave a really interesting point there before, which was, the pattern of startups, and they need to get testing with their audience sooner than later. Did I hear you correctly? Is that what you said?
Yeah. So, I always, and if we were on video, you'll see my hands in the air with air quotes. Don't be in stealth mode. You've got to get out of stealth mode and get out and seek feedback. And so oftentimes, we're sitting there like, well, I know what the small business needs in this case, if that's the target market. I know what small businesses. I was a small business. I know what they need. Or I've worked in had previously worked in other businesses serving small businesses that we had success with, different aspects, not marketing related. And so, so we kind of know, and I guess, we want to stay close to the vest early on. It's not ready to show anyone. Bottom line is, as soon as you can get something out there, and I always suggest, when you're going to go get feedback, you want to, and I said, get it early and often. You don't want to go to family. You don't want to go to people you know. You don't want to go to people you've done business with before. You want to go to complete strangers and get brutal, honest feedback. And so when you walk up to a small business that's agreed to talk, you first need to understand, like, what is their vision? What is their goal? What are they aiming for in the next 3 to 5 years? What is it that they have in place today that they want more of? What don't they have in place that they want? And so they'll, in the case of sort of just quick interviewing, they'd say, well, I want to be top of mind to my customers. I want to drive them back in. I want them to buy more. I want new customers. So I want prospects to come in, revenue, this, that, and the other. And so then the follow on would be, well, if we can provide something that saves them money, saves them time, or increases their revenue, whichever kind of major area, and there's others, but there's an area where you're helping. If we could provide you an opportunity where you could stay, top of mind in front of your customers, engage with them, nurture them, and then potentially drive them back in, et cetera. So would that be of interest to you? And of course, you've just played back the answer they're looking for, and they're like, yeah, of course. And so then sharing the product early on, the brutal, honest feedback is key, because things are going to be buggy, or they might break, or it's not the finished product or service that you're providing, but it's a start, and their feedback's going to guide you to what you're going to create. So I think it's really important to get out there early and gain those folks to give you that feedback, and it'll help in steering the direction of things, because it's really important. Because initially, we then went on and got our first 4 customers. This is, again, constant contact. I've done this with others, where you get a small number of customers, to take your product or service, and then give you that feedback. And then they become, kind of a case study or a success story or a quote. And then when someone asks you, do you have any references, or customer examples, you have them. Now, we only had 4, and we were 100% channels when we started. So we didn't go direct door to door selling a small business. We went through intermediaries and other folks, that alliances, partnerships, channels, et cetera, where people had access to small businesses. And so we got those initial 4. Of course, everyone asked for, do you have any references? Well, I'll give you 3. And then they're like, do you have any more? I'm like, I'll give you 1 more. We gave them what they needed, and no one asked for a 5th one. So
that's smart. Now, so I've actually had the same conversation recently with some other entrepreneurs that are starting up. And the question comes up is that initial test group or beta group, whatever you want to call them, in your experience, do you incentivize them, or what do you do to make it so it's worth their while, even though they know that maybe it's not at its perfect state? Like what are some of the things you've seen work as you're consulting to these startups?
Well, initially, you've got to put a value on anything you're doing. You may not charge them initially, but so the first thing is you're going to say, whatever your product or service is going to cost, like we're going to give you 6 months of this for free. And in exchange, you would ask for your feedback and your patience. Like, we might stumble on something that might be buggy, or it might have to, we have to fix something. It might be friction, right? So you're going to get that feedback, and then you're just giving in exchange for, putting a value on sort of the offering. And then when you get it to some point where it's kind of customer ready to go sell it, then you would ask that they pay, and you might offer them some sort of a price break. But you need to convert them over to being a paying customer, or they may move to the next folks for paying if you don't want to charge the initial kind of your feedback group. But I found if putting a value on it, and if you kind of back to what I talked about earlier, if you provide value, they see value, and you're gonna help them toward that goal or whatever it is that they're looking for, like more customers or drive them back in, top of mind, nurture. If you're doing that, like they got wide-eyed with what we had early on, and it was a far cry from anything that was complete. But we were going to keep enhancing it, and we were taking their feedback. But what they were able to do initially, they saw value, and they were loving it. And in fact, when it was down, we'd get the panic call, like, we got to get a campaign out. Like, you guys are down. When are you going to be back up? Like, we got to get this thing out. So we found that they saw the value in it, and then they're willing, if they see the value, they're willing to pay for it, or give you a ton of time with feedback and so on.
So that's awesome for feature improvements, feedback, user testing, UX, all that stuff. What about price sensitivity? Like, what's your mechanism for going to the market and getting a sense of what you think the pricing should be? Yeah,
a lot of things need to be tested, and you probably could give us some more current and better examples from my experiences. But I would say, you got to test your way into that. Like, we had a free trial. And so we said, okay, well, how long should the trial be? Well, we said, it was sort of like, the porridge and with the bears, like, well, this one's too hot and this one's this, and well, this one's just right. Like, we had to test 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. We found 30 was too short, because they're busy and they kind of get off stuff. And then they were all panicked that they missed the trial period. 90 was too long because they had too much time and they didn't have to get to it. And we felt like 60 was just right. And so, we tested our way into it. And then from the payment level, again, testing, the threshold, and then for what they're willing to pay. But then also, you might have some things where if they hit certain thresholds using the product, then it moves up to the next payment tier. And so we wanted to have in a few instances, not just constant contact, where we wanted to have something where they saw value, they got something from using it, and then they were comfortable with the payment level, and then were happy to pay more as they evolved and grew with the product. So we found a way to do that as opposed to penalizing them, maybe too much. Like, this is really expensive. Like, you don't want something to be on the expense side of the business that they look at. You want something that's driving revenue, and then it becomes priceless. If you can help drive revenue or meet their goals and objectives with what you're doing, they're willing to pay probably a little bit more. Or you can be providing them something that costs less, but that they see incredible value for the price.
Is that so that you basically are embedding yourself, right? It's not, is the budget's not coming into question.
Well, yeah. So like, we're in this market condition time right now where, someone's looking at the books and saying like, okay, we got to cut out, what can we cut out as an expense? Like, this wouldn't be on the table if, it's like, well, we're engaging and nurturing our customers. We got to do that now more than ever. Like, that has to stay. You've got to make sure you're positioned where you're strategic and doing something for their business that they don't see as just an expense. And that's like if you're providing a technology versus providing a solution or a service. So we really position this to be a solution or a service that would help grow their business, and allow them to inform and stay in touch and nurture and engage with their customers. So, like, if someone says, I'm going to get rid of this, like, so you don't think engagement with your customers is important? It's right. Kind of like, well, you don't think that lights on in the store, paying your electric bill are important? They're sort of like, yeah, we can't get rid of that.
Yeah, it's like utility at that point, like an embedded important utility, and you don't notice until the lights are out, right?
Right.
So if you're going to think about now, like, you've gone through this incredible career, and then COVID hits, and it's such a change. What do you see now, the challenges and opportunities that maybe entrepreneurs are faced with to market their startup in COVID, post-COVID? Because things have changed, like, both we're talking about pricing, how you structure your mindset, all these kind of things. Like, what do you see as like some of the big shifts?
Yeah. So the first thing is, everyone has to move away from the fear and the stuck point and all the things around, that, what we did yesterday to what we do today, what we do tomorrow. Like, a lot of things are not changing yet. And, and so we've got that just sort of happens. But this is the opportunity for a startup and even a small business that, where you're focused on working on the business, not in the business. Like, this is your opportunity to be strategic and to be, where you're out of the tactics, if you will. And so if you're really early and you have an idea and you want to sort of ideate on it and you want to go get feedback, well, guess what? There are a lot of people in your target market that are probably have a little bit more free time right now. And so getting out directly or going in through your network and getting introduced to people who could be a good fit, you can go out, ask your network. Anyone know, small businesses focused on XYZ? Would love to have a quick chat with them and share something get some feedback and share something that might help them with their business. People are willing to look at those things and spend that time today, knowing as we gear up for what's next, that you could be kind of in the mix on helping them when they're ready to sort of fire things back up. So I've just been working with a lot of startups, hundreds of startups, if you will, during this time to really think about what they can be doing today. So, there's a few things, right? So just describe, like, they can go seek their target market to go get feedback and interview them. If you're earlier, like thinking of developing a product to do X, Y, and Z, or using anything like it, or have you thought about anything like it, or whatever questions you want to ask, you can do that today. The second thing is I just wrote an article for a magazine, and which is really like today we're doing social distancing, physical distancing, and we need to focus on long distancing. So I've sort of coined a phrase about, your network and your sphere of influence, and go back in time and think about like strategic folks in your life that were mentors, advisors, teachers, coaches, like whoever it was that motivated you or that you had a good relationship with that you lost touch with. So I've been going back into my phone and just sort of going through and saying, oh, I haven't talked to that person in a long time. And then when you get on the phone with them, ask them how they're doing. What are they working on? Is there anything I can help you with? Lead with value. And then they turn around and say, well, what are you working on? And how can I help you? And say, I happen to be working on this and I would love to get, I have a new idea. I'd love to share it with you, get your feedback, but also maybe tap into your network because I'm looking for 4 or 5 people that I could talk to and share my idea and get their feedback because they're my target market. And you'd be surprised at how much people will be willing to help you. And so just, this long distancing concept is just, really trying to expand your network from the group of people that you associate with regularly to those that you've lost touch with, or kind of you'll find within 2 degrees of separation of all these people that you've known in your life, they'll connect you with somebody, from you to them to someone, to get you what you need.
So you're talking about being super resourceful with your contacts. And
Yes.
How often do you see in your experience where startups, they underestimate the value, the importance, and the strategic acceleration that can occur by looking for almost like a virtual group of individuals to be their mentors and board of directors, just with insights and accessing them, but you're not asking for anything. You're not, except for maybe a little bit of time here and there. How many entrepreneurs do you feel now are missing that? Or do you think that's accelerating? It's becoming more of a norm.
I don't think it's a norm yet. I'm singing the mantra, trying to get more people to do it because I know so many, and I've asked so many, are you going out into your network and your network's network and finding, these resources to help you in all these different ways you need help with? And the answer, they look back and forth and then they're like, no. So
it baffles me because there's and even people you don't know. What if you just go on LinkedIn and go, hey, I've got a couple myself where someone goes, hey, I don't know you, but I really love to get your advice. I listen to your podcast and I've gotten on the phone with them and they've told me, like, I had a 20-minute conversation and it changed their world. And I know that, like, just even on the couple interventions you did, you can massively change someone's direction and thinking with just a short amount of time. And a lot of times it's not what to do, it's how to think. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, well, I get the thing we're talking about 2 things maybe. The first one is the sphere of influence that you're closest to, and most of them stay in touch with those, and then they may have tapped them in the past and just sort of feel like they don't want to tap them again, right? Then there's the ones that the extensions beyond that of those that they know, and then who they know, right? So the 2 degrees, and again, all the resources that are out there. I've reached out to some of the for several of my different projects. Through LinkedIn, reached out to top people, sought them out on LinkedIn, sent them a message to say that I think there's an opportunity for us together on something I'm working with that I think you might find interesting. Could I just steal a few minutes of your time for a quick phone call or video chat or whatever? So I've spent a lot of time in doing so, and I think there's just not enough of that going on. And I think sometimes people will find the excuses as to why not do that. And I'm suggesting that they stop the hesitation and start getting out there, because time is of the essence. It's go time. If you're working on something, we have all the excuses as to why we're not doing things, and we've got to stop that and do. So this is one of those that has to be on top of the to-do pile, because there's so much available in sort of this sphere of influence, those you know and those you don't, to move and advance what you're working on. And so this is what it's all about. And everyone has time today, and you need to take advantage of that.
So what is probably the number one or top, I guess we'll say, stumbling blocks from a mindset standpoint that prevent the growth and scale for entrepreneurs, where they just get stuck and it's just a matter of the way they think? Is there some examples or patterns that you see that are, pervasive right now?
Yeah. So I'll give you kind of the general on that first, and we can go more specific. The general is that obstacles occur in life, but also in business, very frequently. And so most people will have an obstacle and that they're stuck on, or it's weighing on them, or they'll walk into the office in the morning and they'll take a clean piece of paper, write on the first line the obstacle, put a little box to the left of it, and hope by the end of the day they check it. And they don't, because they get busy with all the other things that come up and what they're working on and what they planned on. Then the next day they do the same. They write it down, put the box, doesn't get checked. And so the first thing is to go seek counsel, right? So go find folks that have had this obstacle before, that have knocked it down and were successful in eliminating it, or those that have failed trying to do it, or find those that did it but broke it down into smaller chunks. And so you're not the first one that's going to have this obstacle. So lean on others to guide you on it. And so you've got to figure out how to knock down that obstacle or that stuck point, because that's where there's the point of failure, no matter specifically what it is. The point of failure for a lot of startups is they got stuck with an obstacle. It kept weighing on them, weighing heavier, and finally, like, I'm out. Yeah, I just can't take this. And so my suggestion is you figure out how to knock it down. You develop the muscle memory for breaking down these obstacles and getting rid of them. Because I guarantee you, when you knock that one down, the one behind it that's coming is bigger. And you got to figure out how to knock that one down. And guess what? The one behind that is bigger. And so you will not succeed if you can't create this the rhythm and the muscle memory required to knock those down. And that's just a general issue that I see a lot of startups where the point of failure is obstacles in general. Now they vary in size and shape and type, and they come in the journey of starting something and growing something. They come in many shapes and forms, and it does vary by where you are, what stage you're in, and kind of the areas that you're needing help with, and so forth. But they are present at every step of the way, and those that can manage that well. And also, the last thing I would just say on it is I find humor in everything, and the catastrophic obstacle that shows up, I just laugh at it and don't let it own me, and try to find humor and okay, well, so we're not making payroll this week? Seriously? Okay, how are we going to get around that?
I've been there.
Yeah, listen, all the obstacles that we could name, I know you've experienced, I have, and I'm sure many listening have, or they're about to. And so you've got to train yourself to manage those, because that in itself will get you thrown in the towel.
Actually, there's some science on why you would do that. Tony Robbins goes into depth, actually, talking about how your brain will access more information, better information to solve the problem in that state.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the state of having an obstacle, you're
if you're in a positive state of mind, like happy and high energy, you're going to be able to solve problems way more than if you allow yourself to overthink and start thinking of what could go wrong. And that's what people tend to do.
Right.
We all kind of do that, right? Going, oh, shoot. Okay, well, this means payroll. And they start thinking of the domino before it's happened. Instead of going, like what you're suggesting is okay, laugh at it a little bit. Yeah, I think you put yourself in a different mindset.
Got it. Yeah. So everything I say, I'm sure there's science behind it. This is just how I roll. This is what I do. But I welcome that, because it's good to know, because I know the endorphins of laughing and humor that gives you that energy boost, for me anyway. And so it also lets me kind of step back and have a little bit of a clearer head than as you were saying, to be caught in it and the worry part of it. It's there, got to get rid of it, and got to laugh doing it. Whatever it takes.
So, okay, so let's talk about the startup marketing. I think, I've done both. I've worked with large companies. I've worked with mid-size and startups. The type of marketing, I think everybody applies the same marketing methodology. And I think startups are special. They have a completely different process. I'd be interested to hear what you think. But my thought is the process for a startup, sometimes you can over-engineer systems, but at the same time, if you want to scale, many startups make the mistake of just run and gun. What's your sort of cadence? What's your kind of thought and philosophy on startup marketing, and just what does that look like?
Well, so again, a lot of ways to answer that. I think the thing that's coming to mind is, so if you had $10,000 and you wanted it, as just for fun, and you say, okay, how am I going to spend this on marketing? I always go back to saying, where am I going to get the most leverage, right? So 10,000 is not a lot. Maybe in some other cases it is a lot. So I'd say, okay, if I look at a funnel, and then, what am I trying to fill the funnel with more people? Am I trying to do something to nurture them and move them down through the funnel to a call to action? And so do I need more people in the top? And is that direct? Am I doing that through, all the different variety of digital marketing techniques and PPC, display ads, et cetera, retargeting? Like, I think, it's just sort of qualifying where would we get the biggest bang, for the buck. And so I, sort of overanalyze it a little bit to just say, okay, well, and maybe it's not 10,000 into one thing, I guess the best analogies there is the Super Bowl. I had some friends that were starting a company and they raised $4 million and spent $3.5 million on a Super Bowl ad, thinking like the world will see our ad, for 30 seconds. Mm-hmm. And they had a big party with, the screens, with Akamai running, showing like the spikes on the website, that they got a second ad for included or something. And it was a big party, a lot of fun. We got great swag and food and whatever. And it was funny to watch, see all that, but the company didn't get very far. Now that would be a little bit of a long shot for me to take all that money and drop it into the equivalent of like a minute or so of TV time during a Super Bowl. But nonetheless, I think I would first, just better qualify like what does success look like in spending that money? What are the goals that I'm setting, and how am I going to track and report it? I tend to want to, with most businesses, startups for sure. I always try to find where's the channel in the business, where are those alliances, strategic partnerships, and so on that I could work with that could get me to my target market or many of my target market, where there's no cost of sale, but possibly some sort of a share, co-marketing, co-branding, co-revenue, if you will, for something on the back end. So we all win. If sales occur and revenue comes in, we all win.
That's sustainable. I think that's one of the biggest problems with startups is they just think they're going to spend the money on ads, but that doesn't renew. But if you spent that money on systems that right. with relationships that keep serving you and you build a bit of an alliance, I think that makes a ton of sense, especially when you're starting out.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, constant contact was 100% channels, and we stayed that way for a long time. Now, these channels and alliances take a little while to get going, and there's a whole nother conversation here on this topic, but a longer one anyway. But you got to test your way in, and which categories of partners and which partners within the category, and the ones you expect to do a lot won't. The ones you expect to do nothing do a lot. There's sort of a lot that just sort of happens here. But the key thing is that's leverage. You're leveraging someone where you train them up, and you might pay for the marketing materials and some other things that they would then use, so it's training and maybe some incentive dollars for the, first ones to do X, get a little bonus or something like that. To me, it is more sustainable because that then has the ability to repeat and keep on giving versus dropping it all into a bunch of ads or something. Where it's maybe one shot. And as we all know, marketing touches are key. And so one touch gets you less than 2% response rate, but up to 7 touches could get you up to 50% response rate. You could have blown all your budget on your one touch. Is that smart? It's not sustainable. No. So you have to think about kind of where in the marketing mix or the channel mix or, in this go-to-market strategy, would you want to invest those dollars to maximize something? Like if it's spending it on something that could continue to the gift that keeps on giving, well then that might be a better path than some of the other ways. So I always lean that way first, and then you supplement all those other things when you have the money to spend it, because you've got to test your way into what keywords when people are searching and landing pages when they search on something and they get a warm landing on your site with different landing pages. There's a lot of things that come into the mix later. But you could have the best, create these incredible PPC ads and display ads, and then they get over to your site and abandon right away because they're like, oh, that's not what I thought it was. Like, there's so many factors to make sure those few dollars that you had are successful for you that you have to really think through where's the best place to spend it and look at the options and then kind of go for it as opposed to just jumping right in.
Oh, there's so many shortcuts right now that I never had when I was doing this stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Like early on, like, oh my gosh, there's like the ones you can figure out exactly the keywords, the right. price point, when and where, and find those little holes and do it better than your competitors with a fraction of the price. Like exactly. All those tools exist today. Uber suggests, like Neil Patel's thing's brilliant.
Yeah, no question. No question.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit of an art and a science to say where you'd spend that money.
So what about in-source, outsource? Like when you got a startup and, like, do you advocate for like, look, you need to really hone in and understand your customer and test and get intimate with that? Or, hey, you need to outsource and go to the experts. Where do you sit with that?
I would say in general, I'm a huge proponent of staying in your lane. So first and foremost, right? So if you're technical and you're the founder of a company and you don't have anyone on the business side, you're like, well, let me bone up on some of these marketing tools and figure it out, and I can just do it. Well, think of the time value of money that you learn, the researching, learning, and doing. All that time you've spent there. If your time's worth $100 an hour and you've spent 15 hours, that's $1,500 of effort. Now, could you spend less than $1,500 to get someone who's expert in that? Interns, virtual assistants, all kinds of folks that are well versed in probably most of the things you want to do. There's other short term services. You can hire an agency or the great work that you guys are doing. Like they could just start with smaller projects and then you stay in your lane because you can get more value out of those 15 hours of your time doing what you do best. So I'm a huge proponent of that. And in fact, during this time, I have three interns now that are working for me, doing all kinds of stuff. So I'm not doing my social posts anymore. I'm not tweaking my website. I'm not doing all these things that I was spending time on because my time is better spent doing stuff like this and the other things that I'm focused on. And so and I thought, well, I can, I've been in digital marketing my whole career. Of course I know how to do this. I know what to do. I can do it, but I shouldn't because that's not being in my lane. So that's the first thing. So I would outsource where it makes sense or team with somebody who can work with you. There's a lot of organizations and companies that are, startup friendly where they'll work with you kind of on the earlier days and not, maybe charge normal rates or kind of find a way to work with you so that you grow up together. And when funds come in and you have money to pay more, you pay more. But so I think I would just seek out, maybe teaming up with folks that have had success in helping startups in the earlier days and think about, some sort of a spend, with somebody to stay in your lane.
Interesting. The third option that I think of is where you actually hire a mentor or a consultant that you hire somebody who wants to learn marketing or has some capacity and you train it internally. If that person can almost act like an agency, but you get to bring in the learning and bring down your costs over time. It's a different model, but I think that's an interesting one that I think bears, interest for startups as well. Because like what I've seen over again, even though I've been in marketing agency business for years, a lot of times I see these businesses just handing over the keys and they have no control over their business. And so, to me, I kind of wonder, like with the owner and the founder of the business, having some capacity to understand the relationship management, I guess, of an agency, how to select, how to determine if they're performing and stuff like that. I guess that's where you would come in, probably something like that. Is that where you kind of consult with them and help them make those decisions?
Yeah. So I help working through breakthrough moments and finding things, so looking at things strategically. When it gets down to tactical, I have, sort of a pool of folks I can recommend for different things. And I won't do myself, but I'll, again, stand in the lane. I'll bring in others into the mix. And so I team up with different folks for different projects, but usually I'm working with them on the strategy. So what is it fundraising? Let's do the pitch deck. Let me guide you through that. I've even gone on some pitches with them, to add a little bit of credibility and another, sort of view and insight. And they want to know, well, why are you involved and what do you see in this business? And, so they're all the way down to just strategic help. I just got off the phone with somebody where we spent 30 minutes and found 4 things that they weren't doing that they hadn't thought of that could be any out of the 4, I'd say 2 could be breakthrough opportunities for them. And they just hadn't seen it that way. So I like to spend my time to look at what they're doing, how they're doing it, and then see how all of that can be enhanced, and then coach them and guide them, through that process. And if anything is on the go-to-market channels, et cetera, that's in my sweet spot. So how do you take the idea and start it, and then how do you scale it?
Brilliant. And I saw it firsthand when we were at that virtual summit. You were super helpful. And I think you had a couple breakthroughs with people that were on the virtual summit that were guests.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
So you're going forward, like the future. So what's next? Like, what are you up to? What are the programs? I mean, it sounds like you're consulting, but is there something structured? Do you have like a site, a platform? Like, tell us a little bit more about what's going on going forward.
Yeah. So everything. So half my time is centered around speaking and consulting and mentoring. So my website, Alec Speaks, ALEC SPEAKS, AlecSpeaks.com. You kind of can go down the mentoring or the speaking path or the mentoring, coaching path, see what I'm up to. And so that's sort of half of my time. I'm part of a venture fund, G20 Ventures, where we do tech investments here on the East Coast. And so we just kicked off our third fund, and I've been with the group. We're a little bit of a different kind of venture fund. We love to get to startups as early as possible, and it's all tech based. And we'll work with them, but we really kind of come in at the Series A is usually our sweet spot for where we'll fund. But we're all active. G20 stands for Group of 20, so there's 20 or so of us that make up the fund for the most part. And then we also go out and source, vet, select, and scale the startups that we've invested in. So we're really active as a group. We're not limited partners that just write checks. We're actually active in helping. And we'll do sessions with, the CMOs of all of our portfolio companies, where three of us will, I'll do go-to-market and channels. Someone else will do, some other aspect, digital marketing and whatever. We all the experts in sort of different areas. So G20 Ventures. And then the last thing, we spun up an innovation think tank, myself and two other co-founders. We're working on medical device, consumer, and B2B with manufactured products. So we've got three different companies we've spun up. Two are in market and with revenue, a B2B and a consumer product, and the third is a medical device, which is a breakthrough medical device that we're just in a feasibility study with. So I'm pretty heavily focused on helping those, advancing those three companies, not in a day-to-day role, but in a strategy role.
That's amazing. Thank you for being on this show. I think you're going to be such a help to startups with all your years of experience. And, I was such a delight to be on that panel with you. And I'm so grateful that you joined our show. I know you mentioned real briefly where they could find you. Could you just one more time let people know where they can follow and find you?
Sure. Yeah. So the best thing is to go to AlecSpeaks.com. So AlecSpeaks, Speaks, AlecSpeaks.com. All my social channels, links are there, and they can learn more they can get in touch, and they can see what I'm up to. So that's the best place to go to get sort of access to me in any way versus, giving out different, social names and so forth. But it's AlecSpeaks.com.
Okay. Thank you again so much for being on the show, buddy.
All right. My pleasure. And by the way, I want to just say, I really enjoyed hearing you speak at the summit, and I'll look forward to doing more with you in the future.
Yeah, I'd love to collaborate with you in the future anytime. So thank you again for being on the show. And everyone that's listening, thank you so much for tuning in. This is just another great individual that really can help guide you with the different ideas that you have with all the years of experience he's got. If you also, at the same time, if you want to make sure you dial into my new upcoming magazine called Marketer. So just go to marketer.eco. If you have any questions, go to groundswell.fm. That's a podcast landing site. There's a microphone there. Leave me a voicemail. I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, mahalo.